Throughout Wooded Kingdom, we can find a ton of these rocks that are just scattered about. We can do a few simple things with them, like kick them, toss them, and break them. Sometimes upon breaking them, we'll even find some goodies on the inside. Playing casually, they're pretty insignificant outside of the occasional moon, but with glitches, we can actually do quite a lot. And when I say that, I do mean a lot. When I started making this video, I thought it was going to be one of my shorter ones, but, well, it turns out there's a lot to cover. So without further delay, I present you with the floating rock glitch. Now I know based on the glitch's name, it sounds rather insignificant, but honestly, we can do some pretty cool things with it. So first things first, we need to go over the setup, and honestly, it's pretty easy. Once you're in Wooded Kingdom, just find a rock and head to the Iron Road entrance checkpoint. Here we can throw a rock onto this falling platform, step on it, and catch the rock as it's bouncing on the ground. If done properly, we can toss the rock after the platform respawns and it will float in the air. Trying to use the same platform to get more floating rocks can cause the original to break, but fortunately there's a few ways around this. If we're in pre-Peace Wooded Kingdom, we can use the piranha plants here to store the rocks as we set up another one. All we have to do is make sure the rock is in the piranha plant's mouth when we make the platform fall. If this is done properly, it should protect the rock from breaking and allow us to store multiple rocks per platform. Now this method is honestly pretty tedious, but fortunately there's an easier way to store multiple floating rocks. What we need to do is set up a rock normally and then never hit it after we throw it. As long as we do this, we can use the same platform again and again to get more rocks. But like I said, if we hit a rock and make the platform fall again, it will break. So as long as you're careful, this is probably the easiest way to set up a ton of floating rocks and is the method I'd personally recommend. Before I get into some of the more fun things we can do with this glitch, I wanted to note that you don't have to do it in Wooded Kingdom. As an example, we can set up a rock in the Mushroom Kingdom courtyard. First, we're going to throw a rock on top of an open chest and spawn in the mummies. From there, catch the rock as it falls and get to a high up ledge where the mummies can't hit you. From here, we can use Cappy in 2-player mode to defeat the mummies and respawn the chest. Once this is done, we can open the chest and then throw the rock. This will cause the rock to float in midair, and just like that, we have our floating rock. Unfortunately, we can't really do much once we get the rock set up here. As a matter of fact, Wooded Kingdom has a ton of other interesting things we can do after setting up the glitch, so we'll be returning there soon. I just wanted to show this example to prove that the glitch isn't limited to one kingdom and can be done elsewhere. So now that we're back in Wooded Kingdom, what else can we do? Well, one cool thing is that we can make these rocks invisible. While this isn't exclusive to the floating rock glitch, I do think it helps enhance it, so I decided to include it in this video. All we need to do is take one of our floating rocks, throw it, and quickly enter first person. If timed properly, the rock should be invisible and floating in the air. While it isn't required, I would highly recommend that if you're going to make any of these rocks invisible, you use the glowing one that spawns a moon. This one will be the easiest to keep track of in its new state. So this invisible rock glitch actually leads pretty well into what I want to show off next. Most NPCs in Mario Odyssey have some sort of hit stun animation that plays when you throw something at them. Normally, some sort of pushback occurs when this happens. Well, floating rocks don't receive that pushback. Because of this, we can throw a floating rock right next to an NPC and cause the hit sound and stun animation to play over and over again very quickly. If you're still wondering what the invisible rock glitch has to do with any of this, I think the two seem to complement each other pretty well. It allows us to get a much better view of the NPC in their stuck state and makes the whole thing a bit more fun. Another trait that rocks have in Mario Odyssey is that captures can bounce off of them. Because of this, we can actually use these rocks to make a little staircase for our uproot friend. If you really wanted to, you could probably use this to get the uproot somewhere they are not supposed to be, but for the most part, this is just another small thing I thought was fun and wanted to show off. When thrown, rocks can also be used to trigger music notes and collect coins. We can abuse this with floating rocks to have a rock that is in the thrown state indefinitely right on top of one of the clefts that's used to spawn notes. This will cause the notes to continuously trigger from anywhere on the map, resulting in a lot of unnecessary camera movement. Setting up multiple rocks lets us abuse this to trigger a ton of different camera animations at the same time. We can set up one rock at the on top of the wall notes, another at the stretching notes, and then take Mario down to this pipe near the bottom of Wooded Kingdom. If we sync to the notes to activate at the same time, we can enter the pipe once they both trigger and cause the camera to absolutely freak out. Another small thing we can do with these floating rocks is turn Cappy completely invisible. It's pretty easy. All we need to do is place a rock against a wall, jump, and throw Cappy. If done properly, Cappy will not appear back on Mario and we can run around hatless. Don't worry, we didn't kill Cappy or anything. His eyes will still appear in idle animations, and if we throw him again, he'll reappear back on our head. So already there's a lot of cool smaller things we can do with this glitch, but we haven't even gotten to my favorite part yet, lag machines. Whenever we make the platform we use to create the floating rocks fall, the rocks will slam violently against the ground. As a matter of fact, this is why the rocks will break if you interact with them after setting them to be floating. A cool aspect of this is the fact that we can move the floating rocks vertically by doing this. While this trait may seem insignificant, it's going to be a key part for making our lag machine. So first, let's set up a few rocks on this platform and place them high in the air. Next, we'll want to set up a few rocks on the adjacent platform and store them to the side. It's really important that these rocks are done on a different platform than the first because the machine won't work properly otherwise. Once we have our second set of rocks, we can move them directly under the first set. Once that's all done, our machine is ready. Drop the first platform and make the rocks bounce. The rocks should bounce and eventually all overlap with the lower set, creating a lot of lag. There's a lot of other setups you can create outside of this one, but because this one is by far the easiest to make, I wanted to showcase it. If you want to do this yourself, it's important to note that if you drop the second platform anytime after setting up the machine, it will break. Also, you want to make sure that you try and place the rocks at an even height so when you trigger the machine, all of the rocks will overlap properly at the same time. So overlapping a few rocks and making the game lag is cool and all, but what if we took that to the next level and created a black hole? So what exactly do I mean by a black hole? Well, in Pre-Peace Wooded Kingdom, there are 15 rocks, 8 in the starting area, 4 near the falling platforms, and 3 by the giant piranha plant. Each of these rocks can be levitated and stored using one of the previously stated methods. As it turns out, we can actually overlap all of these rocks on top of each other, creating what we'll call a black hole. As expected, this is going to cause a lot of lag, so let's begin. The first thing you'll want to do is get all 15 rocks levitating. Next, clear out the nearby area of piranha plants and poison. This isn't necessary, but makes things a lot easier. Now grab one of the rocks, walk to the edge of this slope facing the lake, and walk back to where the piranha plants were. One of the plants should have respawned so we can walk over, place the floating rock next to him, and let him eat it. From here, kick the piranha plant back, turn around, and repeat. When we kick the second rock out from the piranha plant, we want to make sure we kick it in the same direction as the first so they overlap. Already at 2 rocks, we'll start to notice some lag, and it only gets worse from here. At 5 rocks, you'll already start to notice frequent input drops and a lot of stuttering. At 10 rocks, it's even worse. More input drops, more stuttering, and more lag. By 15 rocks, it's starting to get a bit overkill, and we're definitely experiencing some diminishing returns on lag. At this point, the game is basically unplayable, and I'm really starting to question the choices that got us here. With all the input drops, lag, and a constantly vibrating controller, I honestly don't even know how we pulled this off, but here we are, and it was worth it. If you want the lag to stop, you can warp, restart the game, or make the black hole explode. Stepping on the falling platform one last time will cause all of them to regain collision and break apart in a rather satisfying spectacle. And that's all you need to know about black holes and the floating rock glitch. If you have any questions, just leave a comment down below and I'll try to answer. Thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed, feel free to like and subscribe. I will see you guys next time.